Hi students, welcome back to another PSLE series. Today we are looking at the questions in PSLE 2020 paper. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now the first question that I want to go through is actually a question from question number 28. Okay, as you can see over here, it says that a row of tape has stars and hearts printed in a repeated pattern. Okay, now and what did Mabel do? Mabel cuts a piece of tape from the row. So this is the row. And what did she do? She cut the piece, all right? She cut a piece of tape from the row, and in that piece, there are 135 stars. So, as per usual, they will always want to ask you the possible number of hearts or stars or whatever other shapes on that piece of tape. Now, so how are you supposed to approach a question like that? You always have to make sure you group them up. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me just show you how am I going to do it. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to group them up. Okay, so as you can see over here, all right, there are star, stars, hearts, star, hearts, and then the pattern repeats itself, star, star, heart, star, heart. So we know that star, star, heart is actually my one group. Okay, so you can write this out that in one group, okay, there are 3 stars and 2 hearts. Okay, there are 3 stars and 2 hearts. Okay, and they tell us that in that piece, okay, so in that full piece that she has cut out, there are 135 stars. All right, so what we want to do is we first want to find the number of groups. Okay, with the stars, we can find the number of groups. If one group there are 3 stars, then how many groups would there be if I have 135 stars? Okay, so simply put, I just have to do 135 divided by 3. When you do that, you realize, okay, that you get to 45 groups. Okay, so you can write it out. 135 divided by 3, we get to 45 groups. Okay, so the question asks us to find the possible number of hearts on that piece of tape. So to find the number of hearts, since I have 45 groups, all I need to do is simply just 45 times 2, and therefore I have 90 hearts on that piece of tape. So let's take a look at question number 29. In this question, it says that the figure shows a square divided into 2 smaller squares, A and D. So we have one square here, with another square over here, and 2 rectangles B and C, okay? And the total perimeter of rectangle B and C is 48 centimeters. So we know that when I add the perimeter of B and C up together, we get to 48 centimeters. And they tell us that the area of square A is 25 centimeters square. And I think that is a very, very important information, because if you know that the area of square A is 25 centimeters square, what you want to do is you want to find the length, right? So I can say that the length of A will then be square root 25, and we get to 5 centimeters. So you want to quickly note down that this is 5, this is 5, then this will be 5, this will be 5, mirror image, this will be 5 as well, and this will also be 5. Okay, so with that in mind, I can actually find out, okay, the length of C, which is these 2 parts, and also the length of B, which is also this part and this part. Okay, so how do I go about that? To find the length of B and C, we will just write it out first. Length of B and C will then be 48 minus 5 minus 5. So we remove away the breadth of B, and then we are also going to remove the breadth of C. And when you do that, you get to an answer of 28 cm. So because we know that this is the length, this is the length, this is the length, and this is the length, there are 4 lengths in total. We want to find the individual length, so all we have to do is 28 divided by 4, and we get to 7 centimeters. Okay, so since we know that is 7, let's replace, the L with 7. So I'm just going to put 7 over here, 7 over here, 7 over here, and as you can see over here, that forms the length of D. Okay, so the question wants us to find the area of square D. So to find the area of square D, so we write down that the area of square D will then be 7 times 7, and therefore my answer has to be 49 centimeters square. So as you can see over here, it says that Matthew has a rope which is 64 cm long, and he cuts it into 3 pieces. Okay, so I know that the hole is actually 64 centimeters long. So that is the whole piece of the rope. Now, what did he do? He cut it into three pieces, as you can see over here. This is the first piece, this is the second piece, and this is the third piece, okay? They want us to find the value of u. Whenever that happens, what you want to do is to form an equation. What do I mean? Did you realize that u plus 8 plus u plus 2u is actually equals to 64? Right? So if I may just simplify it for you, for those of you who have no idea what exactly is u, let's imagine this, okay? I change all of this to a number, say for example 6 cm, 5 cm, and maybe 10 centimeters over here. You will tell me that when I add these three up together, I will get to 64. Right? So actually it is the same thing. All right. Instead of having the value, they now use u to represent, okay, the alphabet u to represent, because this is algebra, isn't it? So what we want to do is the process is still the same. We will still say that u plus 8 plus u plus 2u is equals to 64 cm. All right, so what you want to do next is you want to make sure that same family sit together. Same family sit together. Now, so how do I put them together? The u's and the u's will be together. So this is one u, this is also another one u. So 2, 3, 4. Right? So therefore it's 4u plus 8 is equals to 64. All right, you make sure that same family sit together. You bring the 8 over. Whenever you bring the 8 over, you have to minus it. So 4u is equals to 64 minus 8. All right, so when you do 64 minus 8, you get to an answer of 56. So therefore, I continue from here. 4u is equals to 56, and we find 1u. All right, so we simply have to do 56 divided by 4, and therefore 1u is equals to 14. And the question wants you to find the value of u, and therefore the value of u is 14, not just 14, but 14 cm. Hi everyone, today we are looking at question number 5. As you can see over here, it says that a square is first divided into two equal halves. So we know that this is the first half, all right, and then after that we have the second half, which is over here. Okay, now then they are telling us that the top half is divided into 5 equal parts. Now the word equal is extremely important. All right, and then as we continue reading, it says, while the bottom half is divided into 4 equal parts again. So when I see that it is 5 equal parts and 4 equal parts, what I want to do is I want to find the LCM of 4 and 5. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, okay? The reason why I'm doing that, right, is simply because I want to make the first half, the top half, in fact, I will call this the top half, and the bottom half to be the same, right? In the measurement question, in any questions that requires us to find, the measurements or the area, the perimeter, we try to make them the same first. We try to make it into a shape that we are familiar with, right? So you see, the problem with this question, right, is that the top half is 5 parts, the bottom half is 4 parts. So there's actually no way you can group them together, isn't it? So we want to make sure that they are the same, right? In math, it's all about making things the same. So how do I do that? That is the reason why I have to use the LCM method, right? So I'm going to find LCM at 4 and 5. What is LCM of 4 and 5? It is 20. So basically, instead of you using a pen to divide this into 20 parts, which is going to be extremely tedious and time consuming, we will just say that, oh, this becomes 20 parts. All right, I'm going to split the 4 equal parts into 20 parts. And for my 5 equal parts, I'm also going to split it into 20 parts. Okay, now, so how are we going to go about that? Very simple. You see, for my 4 equal parts, okay, I will just simply do 4 times 5, right? And when I do 4 times 5, that gives me 20, which means to say each of these parts, right, we will call them 5. Okay, I will just put 5 instead of really just drawing 5 or splitting it up into 5 parts. That's actually impossible because the spaces are too small as well, right? So I'm just going to say there are 5 parts here, 5 parts here, 5 parts here, 5 parts here. There are 4 parts here, 4 parts here, 4 parts here, 4 parts here, and 4 parts over here. So when I do this, I realize that they are all now the same, right? You see, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20. All right, so both are of the same parts, equal parts, okay? And they say that the total area of the shaded parts. So let's take a look at shaded parts. What we have is, I'm going to put a tick for those that are shaded. So I have 1 over here, 2 over here, 3 over here, 4 over here, 5 over here. All right, and we can see it's actually 4 plus 4 plus 4. So 4 plus 4 plus 4. All right, and then we go plus 5 plus 5. So 4, 8, 12. 12 plus 10, that gives me 22. All right, so we call this 22 parts. So what is basically 22? 22 parts is actually equals to 165. Okay, so once that is done, right, what I want to do is I want to find Mr. Greenman. So we always find one part first. So one part will be 165 divided by 22, and we get to 7.5. Now, the question is asking us for what? The question is asking us for the area of the square. So the area of the square, which means to say the whole thing, we can see that it's 20 parts and 20 parts. So therefore, over here is 40 parts. So basically, how do I get from 1 to 40? I times 40. When I do something to the left, I must do something to the right. When I do 40 times 7.5, or 7.5 times 40, I get to 300, and this is the area of the square. So we write down our answer as 300 cm square. Hi everyone, today we are looking at a question like this. Now as you can see over here, it says that Lucy had an equal number of gold stars and silver stars. So gold stars over here, silver stars over here. We show that the model has to be of the same size, okay? So we make sure the model is of the same size. Okay, now, so once you're done with this, right, you want to move on to sentence number 2. Okay, it says that she, as in Lucy, what did Lucy do? Lucy say, I'm going to give Maggie 26 gold stars. Okay, so we show that 26 first. We show that this is basically 26. And I'm also going to give Maggie 14 silver stars. And we show that this is 14. Okay, so whenever you do something like that, you want to make sure you mirror image. Okay, apply the mirror image principle. If this is 14, this has to be 14. Because you wrote 14 over here, you can find out what is this, right? So we simply do 26 minus 14, and we know that is 12. So this is 12, and then this has to be 12. So now ask yourself, which one do I have to cancel? All right, for gold, we'll just cancel the whole thing, right? Why is that so? Because 26 gold stars were given to Maggie. And for silver, we'll just cancel 14 over here. All right, we do not cancel this 12 because this wasn't given to Maggie. Okay, so what did she do? All right, she then gave the remaining stars. So she told Nick that, hey, you can take the remaining. Okay, now, and we can see that the remaining is basically whatever that is over here and whatever that is over here. All right, so these are the remaining stars. And Nick was given 1 gold star for every 3 silver star. Now, this is a sentence that many students struggle with, okay? Because when they see something like that, they immediately switch off. They don't understand what exactly is the question trying to tell us. What is this question trying to tell us, okay? Now, let me just make it simple for you, okay? Gold is to silver. Now, for every 1, you will see 3. So for every 1 gold star that you take, okay, you will see 3 silver star. So let's say if you have 2 gold star, you will see 6. If you have 3 gold star, you will see 9 silver. If you have 4 gold star, you will see 12 silver. If you have 5, 15 silver. If you have 6 gold, 18 silver. If you have say for example 7 gold, right, then what do you get? You get 21 silver. All right, that's what they are trying to tell us. It will be in this ratio. For every 1, you get 3. Now think about it. Look into your pencil case, okay? You can take out, say for example, 2 red pens, and every 2 red pens you see 4 blue pens, something like that, okay? So I hope that explains what this sentence is trying to get us to do. All right, so because of this sentence, right, and if you don't understand this sentence, right, there's no way you can move on. You don't know what are you going to do anymore, right? Because you don't know what is the total number of gold star and silver stars that were given to Nick by Lucy. But because we know these, all right, what we can do is we can confidently say that this is 1 unit. So we are going to use 1 unit over here and 3 units over here. Okay, we are going to use 1 unit and 3 units over here. Now, if this is 1 unit, this has to be 1 unit. Isn't it true to say that my 12 over here has to be 2 units? Why is that so? Because we simply do 3 units over here, minus away 1 unit, that gives me 2 units, and 2 units is actually equal to 12. We find 1 unit, and that gives me 6. Now, then of course, Mr. Greenman is out. Right? If you have been watching my video, you know that my encouragement to students is to always find out your Mr. Greenman, which is your 1 unit. Okay, the moment you have 1 unit, you know you are somewhere there, right? Now, how many stars did Uzi have at first? So let's look at gold first. Okay, we are going to find gold first. Don't rush into it. For gold itself, it's basically over here as 6 because 1 unit is 6. So 6 plus 26, that gives me 32. All right, and for silver, For silver will be 3 units. So let's find 3 units first. That gives me 6 times 3, which is equals to 18. And whereas the last part, don't forget to add in, that's 18 plus 14, that gives me 32. So when this happens, right, you know that number of stars Lucy have at first will be 32 plus 32. And therefore, your answer for this question has to be 64 stars at first. Let's move on to the next question. As you can see over here, it says that on Friday, the ratio of the number of adults to boys to girls visiting a zoo was 7:6:5. Okay, so we do not know the concept yet. Of course, we can say that it's ratio, but that, remember, is not a concept, that is a topic. Okay, so we say that on Friday, right, for adults to boys to girls, it will be 7:6:5. Okay, so this is the first thing that you want to do. Now, on Saturday, what happens? On Saturday, the number of adults visiting the zoo remain the same. Okay. However, the number of boys increased by 50%. So we can see that 50%, we might want to change this to half. Okay. And the number of girls decreased by 40%. So what is 40%? 40%, you do 40 over 100. All right, and then when you reduce it to simplest form, you get to 2 over 5. Okay, so when I see a question like that, I know that this can be treated as a B and A question. Okay, so this can be treated as a B and A question. So what I want to do is I want to draw a table to show you exactly how I would tackle a question, of such nature. Okay, so I'm going to split it into 3 columns. I will say that this is basically adults, and then I have boys over here, I have girls over here. All right, before basically means it is my Friday. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to say that this is 7 units, this is 6 units, this is 5 units. Okay, so what happens is this, right? Is that the number of boys increase by 50%. When the number of boys increase by 50%, all right, it means, okay, so that is the change, isn't it? So 50% simply means half times 6 units, right? Why is it half times 6 units? Because 50% of 6 units, therefore this is 3 units. Okay, so that means this I have to add, okay, because of the word increase over here. So when that happens, you get to 9 units. So that is for boys. Whereas for girls, decrease by 40%. What is the meaning of decrease by 40%? When the decrease means you minus, isn't it? So what happens is this, right? You are also going to do 2 over 5 times 5 units. Okay, when you do 2 over 5 times 5 units, you get to 2 units. But for these 2 units, you have to minus. So therefore, I'm left with 3 units over here. How do I get 3 units? I simply do before minus away 2 units. That gives me 3 units. Now, for adults, no change. So therefore, my after, which is my Saturday, it will be 7 units as well. All right, so there will be no change to my adults. Now, in question A, it says, what was the ratio of adults to boys to girls visiting the school on Saturday? So therefore, your answer has to be 7. Okay, this is for A, is to 9 is to 3. Okay, so can you reduce it to simplest form? You can't, right? So therefore, this is your final answer for A. Now, let's talk about B. It says that on Friday, 627 boys and girls visited the zoo. So when you look at boys and girls, you realize that boys and girls, and this is on Friday, okay? This is on Fridays. So boys and girls is actually 11 units. So 6 units plus 5 units, that gives me 11 units. And we know that 11 units is equals to 627. So what we like to do is to quickly find out what is my Mr. Greenman, which is 1 unit, which is 57. Now, once this is done, right, you can read the question, right, as per usual, right? In my earlier parts of the video, I also talked about how 1 unit is your Mr. Greenman. So Mr. Greenman is out, read the question, the final sentence. It says, what was the total number of visitors at the zoo on Saturday? So that means to say they want you to add all of this up together. So 7 plus 9 plus 3. So that gives me 19 units. Okay, so I will just write it out first. This is 19 units, and we know that 19 units will then be, how do I get from 1 to 19? We times 19. When I do something to my left, I must do something to my right, so I times 19 as well. So when I do 57 times 19, I get to 1083, and this is my answer for part B. So let's move on to the next question. Now, as you can see over here, it says that ABCD is a rhombus. Now, when I see that it is a rhombus, I want to make sure I write down ZCF. What exactly is ZCF? ZCF simply stands for zebra cannot fly. So ZCF means that we can see the Z angle, the C angle, and the F angle. Okay, now, so when I see that it's a rhombus, I need to make sure I show, all right, that the sides, they are all the same. They are parallel, all right. Make sure we show that they are parallel, okay. And when you see something like this, okay, because you see, if I were to half the rhombus, then I will get two isosceles, isn't it? So because I know that this is 106 degree, all right, so that is simply just angle BCE, all right, it's equals to 106 degree. What I can do is I can find out what is this and what is this over here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to say that angle CBD is equals to angle CDB, all right, is equals to 180 degrees minus 106 degrees. And then what do I want to do? Because it is an isosceles triangle, so I want to divide by 2, and I'll get to 37 degrees. Okay, where is 37? This is 37, this is 37. So I know that this is also equals to 37, and I know that this is also equals to 37 degree. All right. Now, once I'm done with this, I might want to look at the question, all right, to roughly have a sense of, where are we headed towards, okay? The question says angle ABD. Where is angle ABD? So angle ABD is simply this A, B to D. So therefore, this is the first answer, all right, and this is what they want us to find. Okay, so for A, I'm done, and this is actually A. Okay, now, so once I'm done with this, right, what I want to go on to do is I want to find GCB. Where exactly is GCB? GCB is simply whatever that is over here. You might want to put a question mark so that you inch closer to your answer. And then of course the next one is EFB. Where is EFB? EFB is basically whatever that is over here, right? So we can see the EFB, right, as is in a four-sided figure. So this is a four-sided figure. All right, you can see over here, right? Since EFB exists in a four-sided figure, we can simply find EFB by doing 360 degrees minus away this, minus away this, minus away that. So if you want, you can go and find EFB first. All right, EFB is simply just 360 degree minus away 106 degree minus away 37 degree minus away 54 degree. All right, so of course you punch your calculator, you will get to an answer of 163 degree. So this is 163 degrees. So we can write down over here. Now, of course, we want to find out the other question mark. And in fact, this is C. Yeah? So we want to find out the other question mark, which is from B. All right. So for B itself, they want us to find angle GCB. And you can see over here, do you remember just now? Or in fact, just now we haven't even moved on to the next sentence, right? So very important to move on to the next sentence. Okay. I just have to remind you again and again and again. It's super important. They told us that DFB, all right, they are straight lines, and then we have DECG. So DECG, they are also straight lines, and straight lines are extremely important because if they tell you they are straight lines, then you can use angles on a straight line to solve the question. So to find GCB, all right, so we simply just have to do GCB is simply just 180 degrees minus away 106 degrees. When I do that, I'll get to a beautiful answer of 74 degrees. And this is my answer for part B. All right, and that's all I have for you for this question. So let's move on to question number 10. Now, as you can see over here, it says that shops A and B sell files of four colors: blue, green, red, and yellow. And they have drawn, these bar graphs, to show you the number of files sold by each shop in January. Okay, so these are bar graphs for just January. Okay, now the bar for the number of yellow files sold by shop A has not been drawn, which means to say I need to find it, right? Now, then, okay, so whenever I see a bar graph question, I want to quickly note down, okay, so for blue itself, right, it's actually 150. For green itself is 175. For red is 25. They are very kind, to draw all of these dotted lines to help you to see clearly. For blue, it's 125. So make sure with the dotted lines, don't get it wrong, okay? Green is 175, red is 200, yellow is 75, okay? Do it nicely, yeah? Now, so in A, it says that half of the files sold by shop A were yellow files. Wow, so shop A sold blue, green, red, okay, and yellow is actually half of it. So if yellow is half of it, right, so let me maybe just draw this model, and I think this will click almost immediately. If yellow is half of it, isn't it true to say that blue, green, and red is the other half? Okay, all right, so yellow is half of it, blue, green, and red is the other half. So to find out what is the number of yellow files shop A sold, okay, we are going to say, all right, that yellow files, okay, yellow is actually equals to blue plus green plus red. Okay, because if yellow is half, then my H to the I to the D to the D to the E to the M, my hidden information will be the other half, and the other half has to be blue, green, and red. So therefore, yellow will then be blue, which is 150 plus 175 plus 25. All right, so this will get you to an answer of 350. So we know that there are 350 files or yellow files sold by shop A. Okay, so this is done. Now, then of course we go on to the next part, right? In B it says what color of files did shop A sell more than shop B? So let's talk about, of course, we can see that blue definitely shop A sold more than shop B. All right, so we say blue. What else? Green, they are of the same. Red, shop A sold lesser, and finally we have blue and yellow. All right, so therefore your answer, you can just write blue and yellow. Okay, so that's for B, which I believe most of you should be able to compare, right? Now, so B is done. Okay, so without A, you can't solve B lah. Okay, and of course, finally in C, right, it says in February. Okay, so no longer looking at this model bar, okay? All right, because they're asking us for February, okay? So February is not these model bar, sorry, I apologize, not these bar graphs. Now, shop B sold 105 more blue files than the number of blue files sold in January. So let's ask ourselves, how many blue files sold in January for shop B? We can see that it's 125, okay? Now, they want us to find the percentage increase. So whenever it's percentage increase, we always have to use the formula change over original times 100. Why is it times 100? Because of the word percentage, okay? So what is the change? We know that the change is 105. Okay, why is it 105? Because over here it says 105 more. It doesn't mean that shop B sold 105 in February. It's 105 more. Over the original is always the earlier months. Okay, so over here is January, which happens to be 125. So when you times 100, of course, you punch your calculator, you will get to an answer of 84%. So this is the 84% increase in the number of blue files sold by shop B from January to February. So now let's take a look at the next question. Okay, in question number 11, it says that the photocopying rates of two machines, P and Q, are as shown. So as you can see over here, right, in P itself, right, it says that 2 pages per second. That means to say 1 second, it can print out 2 pages. And for Q, every 5 seconds, it will print out 7 pages. Okay, now then they continue to say that both machines were used to make a copy of a set of notes which had been divided into part 1 and part 2. And machine P took 7 minutes to photocopy part 1. Okay, so we are going to stop here. We are going to write down something first. Okay, machine P took 7 minutes. Now, first thing first, if you know that for P, right, if 1 second, okay, it can print 2 pages, then let's ask ourselves, how many pages can it print in 7 minutes, right? But of course, you have to change 7 minutes to 420 seconds. All right, so now you know that, okay, 1 second is 2 pages, so 420 seconds will then be, how do I get from 1 to 420? With times 420. Okay, and I would also like to do something to my right, and when I do 2 times 420, we get to 840 pages. Okay, so that is the number of pages machine P can print in or photocopy in 7 minutes. Now, whereas for Q, okay, we can see that machine Q took 8 minutes to photocopy part 2. So remember just now we know that for machine Q, all right, it will need 5 seconds. Okay, so 5 seconds to print 7 pages. So 5 seconds for 7 pages. Now my question to you is, of course, we have to change 8 minutes, right, to seconds as well. So that is basically 480 seconds. Now, so once you have this, you need to ask yourself, right, how do I get from 5 to 480? Right, so you simply just have to times 96. So over here, we times 96. When I do something to my left, I must do something to my right. When I do 96 times 7, we get to an answer of 672 pages. So once I'm done with that, right, I can do A, right? Because in A, they are asking us how many pages were there altogether in the set of notes. So what you want to do is you want to add these two up together. All right, so that is for A itself. So when you add these two up together, you will get to an answer of 1,500 and 12. Okay, so that is the number of pages it can print, and it is also the set of notes. Now, and they continue on to tell us that another copy of the same set of notes was made using machine Q only. Same set of notes, so therefore it's 1512 pages as well. All right, so what we want to do is we want to say that 5 seconds, if I can take 5 seconds for Q itself, right? 5 seconds to print 7 pages, then how many seconds will I take to print 1512 pages? Okay, so this is what you need to find, right? So all you need to do is simply just ask yourself, right? How do I get from 7 to 1512? So you just have to do 1512 divided by 7. You know, over here is times 216. Okay, so when I do something to my left or my right, I must do something to my left. So I times 216 as well. So 5 times 216, I will get to an answer of 1080 seconds. Now, but the question is asking us for how many minutes, right? So we just have to find 1080 divided by 60. When I do that, I'll get to an answer of 18 minutes, and therefore machine Q will need 18 minutes to print the same set of notes. Now, so let's move on to question number 12. Now, as you can see over here, it says that the figure is formed by two identical circles with centers at A and C. So what they want to do is they want us to find the perimeter of the unshaded part, as you can see over here in part A, right? And before I even go on to that, I make sure I read all of these things. It says that ABCD is a square, which is very important, and the length of AB is 15. So you want to quickly write down and show that AB is actually 15 cm. So we are going to write this down first. And when you see that anything that comes from the center, can you see over here, it says center A and C is extremely important. It means that anything over here, these lines and these lines, they are all of the same measurement. Okay, so any line that comes from the middle point will have the same radius. Now, so once this is done, right, what you want to do is, of course, to answer A, right? Now, the question wants us to find the perimeter of the unshaded part. So which is the perimeter of the unshaded part? Let me just highlight it for you to see. All right, and you will see that this is the perimeter of the unshaded part. Okay, and when you see something like this, you realize that this arc length itself is actually the arc length of a quadrant. Okay, if you can follow my cursor, you see this is an arc length of a quadrant. So what you want to do is simply just find the arc length of a quadrant. Okay, so this is the arc length. Okay, so when that happens, you simply just have to do 1/4 times 2 pi r. Okay, or some of you prefer to do 1/4 times pi d. All right, both works the same. All right, now so over here we do 1/4 times 2 times 3.14. Let's ask ourselves what is the radius, and you know, we can see that this is the radius, so therefore my radius will then be 15. Okay, so when you do something like this, right, you of course you punch your calculator and you'll get to an answer of 23.55. Now, but this 23.55 is only from here to here, all right? It's just one of it. So what you want to do is you want to say that the perimeter of the unshaded part will then be 23.55 times 2. Okay, so when you do that, you'll get to an answer of 47.1. Okay, so now of course I go to my answer blank and I will just put 47.1 cm. Okay, don't forget your units. Now, once this is done, right, they want us to find the total area of the shaded parts. So the total area of the shaded parts, you know, is broken down into a few segments. In fact, I see it as a few parts, right? Now, the first thing I see is, of course, this big part, and this big part is actually just 3/4 of a circle. And then, of course, the other side, since it is identical, the other side will also be the same. So you can just focus on one side first, and then you just times 2 later. So I just focus on one side. I have this very odd shape. Let's call this X and let's call this Y. Okay, so X and Y, they of course, they are the same, right? So you want to find the area of X. Now, there are a few ways to go about this, right? But personally, what I like to do is I like to do this, okay? So if you can follow my cursor, I'm just going to erase all of this so that you have a better view, all right? I personally prefer to find the area of the square, and then I will minus away the quadrant, the area of the quadrant. And when I do that, I'll get to the area of x. So let me just try that again. I'll find the area of the square, minus away the area of the quadrant, and then I'll get to the shaded part x. Okay, so let's start on that. All right, so I will find the area of the square. Okay, so area of square will definitely be 15 times 15. All right, because we know that that is the measurement, we get to 225. Now, once you're done with that, you want to find the area of the quadrant, which again has the same radius. So area of quadrant will then be 1 over 4 pi r square. All right, you want to write 1 over 4 times 3.14 times r being 15. And of course, to the power of 2. All right, so when you do that, you'll get to an answer of 176.625. Okay, so don't forget, all right, according to our plan, we are going to subtract away the quadrant so that we are able to find out the area of x, correct? So I'm just going to write over here that the area of x is simply just 225 minus away 176.625. And we get to an answer of 48.375. Okay, so what is 48.375? We know that this small little part over here is 48.375, which means to say this is also 48.375. Okay, so do not confuse yourself. The area or the three-quarter circle is not 48.375. Okay, so now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to find the area of the three-quarter circle. All right, so area of 3 over 4 circle. How do I go about that? Same thing, apply the formula pi r squared, but don't forget to times 3 over 4. So 3.14 times 15 to the power of 2 times 3 over 4. And we'll get to an answer of 529.875. Now, what is this 529.875? This is basically the area of the three-quarter circle. So again, like what I've said, I'm just going to find one part first, and then laterwards I will double it, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to find the area of shaded part, okay, which is going to be 529.875 plus the area of x, which is 48.375. When I do that, we get to an answer of 578.25. But you see, this 578.25 is not my final answer because there is only just one part. So what I want to do is I want to double that. All right, so I'm just going to continue from here. So I will say that the total area, or I would say the total shaded area, would then be 578.25 times 2. When you do that, you get to a beautiful answer of 1156.5. And of course, you put it in here. And don't forget your units. So now let's take a look at question number 13. It says that Mr. Lim had blue pens and red pens for sale. Okay, so what did he do? So he sold 270 blue pens. Okay, so what are we going to write? I'm going to say that blue pens or brackets sold is actually equals to 270. And 25% of the pens sold were red. So therefore, we know that red sold is equals to 25%. Now, if red sold is 25%, isn't it true to say that blue sold would then be 75%? Because blue sold is my hidden information. So you as a student, you always need to ask yourself, especially in math, right? What is the H to the I to the D to the D to the E to the N? Okay, so this is something that I always remind my students, right? Whereby you have to find the hidden information. So you know that this is 100% minus away 25%, and we get to 75%. All right, and because we know that 75% is equals to 270, we can find 1% first, which is also known as my Mr. Greenman. So we will get to a beautiful answer of 3.6, and we quickly find out what is 25%. Okay, because we want the value or the number of pens sold that are red. So we just do 3.6 times 25 and we get to 90. Of course, to answer A, right, it means that I have to add the blue pens and the red pens that Mr. Lim had sold. So therefore, I will just have to do 270 plus 90. When I do that, I'll get to a beautiful answer of 360 blue and red pens sold altogether. Okay, so this is your first answer. Now, once you're done with this, you can move on to the next part. Okay, in the next part, it says that he sold 40% of his pens. Okay, so if this is sold, isn't it true to say that 40% is then 360? So you might want to find 10% or 1%. I leave it to you, whichever that, makes you understand better. We get to 90. Okay. Now, and if this is sold, then isn't it true to say that 60% will then be unsold? So therefore, this is unsold. All right, how do I get to 540? Because over here, I times 6. When I do 90 times 6, I get to 540. Now, it says that 30% of the pens left unsold. How many unsold? 540. So out of these 540, there are some that belongs to blue, and there are some that belongs to red. So I'm going to show that this belongs to red. Now, so how many belongs to blue? It says 30%. So we are going to quickly write down that 30% times 540. All right, so when you do that, you get to 162. So for red itself, we will just have to do 540 minus away 162. And you'll get to 378 red that is unsold. Now the question says, how many red pens did Mr. Lim have at first? So to find red pens at first, okay, so we are going to write red at first. It is basically just combining the sold and the unsold. So what is the sold? The sold, as you can see over here, we have learned that in part A, all right, that 25% of the pens were sold and 25% carries or has the value of 90. So we say 90 sold plus the unsold, which is 378. When you do that, you get to an answer of 468 pens that are red at first. Now, when I look at the next question, which is question number 14, it says that Andy saved a total of $108 in coins in his coin box. So nothing really much to write. You might want to say that 108 is basically the total. All right. And then in sentence number 2, it says that 2/3 of all the coins saved were $1 coins. So we are going to draw. We're going to show that this is 3 units. And of course, we are going to shade the first 2 units, and we're going to say that these are $1. Okay, now, and as we continue to read, right, it says that there were 3 times as many $1 coins as 50-cent coins. So what does that mean? What is the meaning of 3 times as many $1 coins as 50-cent coins? Okay, so we know that when you see something like that, it means that $1 coin will be 3 units, 50-cent coins will be 1 unit. So we can express it in ratio form. $1 is to 50 cents will be 3:1. Now, but do you remember just now it says that 2/3 of all the coins saved were $1. So if I were to write that out, I would say that $1 will be 2. All right, and the rest will then be 50 cents plus 20 cents. All right, when I do that, I realize that this is 1 unit. Okay, so now there is something weird over here, right? Because how can the same subject, which is $1 over here, have a different value or different ratio? So what do we want to do? We call this a constant part question, whereby we are going to times 2 to this, we are going to times 2 to this, we are going to make $1 the same. times 3 to this, I times 3 to this, and I'll get to 6 over here is to 3. 6 over here is to 2. Now, so you know that 50 cents is actually 2 units. So you can split this up and say that 50 cents is 2 units, and therefore 20 cents will be 1 unit. And this explains why when you add 2 and 1 together, that's how you get to 3. Okay, so now, of course, right, we know that $1 is 6 units. So what we can do is we can go to our model bar and split it up into 6 units, which means to say I will have 3 parts in 1 unit, another 3 parts in another unit. All right, and therefore, of course, for my final unit, I can also split that up into 3 parts. When I do that, I know how many units or how many parts belongs to 50 cents. We will shade two parts. We'll say that this is 50 cents. All right, and then of course for my 20 cents, I will shade one part and I will say that this is my 20 cents. Now, there's one thing that I want you to realize, right? Whenever you split it up, you have to call them parts. Okay, whenever you split them up, you have to call them parts. Okay, so what we can see over here is this, right? $1 has 6 parts, 50 cents has 2 parts, 20 cents has 1 part. So when that happens, you realize that these are basically my value and these are basically my number. So we can use number x value to solve this question. So that is another concept that is discovered here. All right, so if it's a number x value, we are going to draw a table, or if you don't want a table, I think that's fine as well. All right, so what happens is that we have our $1. Okay, so what is the meaning of value? All right, value is basically how much. Okay, so for $1 itself, the value, as you can see over here, is definitely $1, right? Well, what about the number? The number means how many do I have? Okay, so we know it's 6 parts. So the total would then be $6 parts. Okay, now for 50 cents, it's a little different. The value is 50 cents only. The number is 2 parts. When you multiply them together, you get to $1 part. And finally, we have 20 cents. Okay, for 20 cents itself, it is also different. Okay, the value is 20 cents, right? And for the number will be 1 part. So therefore over here you get to 20 cents part. Now, do you remember just now I wrote that the total is $108? So where did this $108 come from? It actually came from here. So when you add all of this up together, all right, you simply do 6 plus 1 plus 20 cents, you get to $7.20 parts. And this is actually equals to $108. So we write this down. So do you remember I always say, right, that you have to find Mr. Clean Man. So we are going to find 1 part first. So we simply just have to do 108 divided by 720. When I do that, I'll get to a very beautiful answer of 15. Now then, if you were to ask me, is this $15 or is this 15 coins? I will confidently tell you that it is not $15 because when I divide, what happens to my dollar sign? I have to cancel. So therefore, right, in these units, right, in this question, there are only 2 types of unit. Okay, the first type of unit is in dollar. The second one has to be coins. So if dollars are cancelled, then isn't it true to say that this is actually 15 coins, right? So once this is done, of course, you can read the question. It says, how many coins did Andy save in his coin box altogether? When I see the word how many, I need to fix my eyes on the number, right? Because when I say how many, I'm referring to the number of coins. So as you can see over here, 6, 7, 8, 9. So in total, right, I have 9 parts. So all I need to do is to find 9 parts. And in order for me to do that, I just have to do 15 times 9. When I do that, I'll get to a beautiful answer of 135 coins. And I can refer back to the question. The question is asking us how many coins. So therefore, this is your answer for this question. Hi everyone, today we are looking at a question like this. Now there are many ways, for you to solve a question like this. So let's, take a look at A. All right, in A itself, right, it is asking us, right, for the distance from the top of the first ring to the bottom of the fourth ring. So basically, they are asking for this question mark. So when you see something like that, you always have to ask yourself, right, can I find out the measurements? May not be the whole thing, but parts of it. So we can see, right, obviously that, the whole thing is 9. So, and we know that this small little part is 1. So I'm just going to put 1 over there. And if that small little part is 1, right, that means everything else, right, will also be 1. And you can see the way I place my 1, I try to separate them so I can see clearly. So if that is the case, right, then this part over here, right, because you see from here all the way to the bottom of the ring is 9. So 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. So this part is 6. Okay, so that means from here all the way down. All right. Whereas for this is a little different, right? Because if you were to see carefully, you realize that it is actually from here all the way down to here. Okay, this point to this point is 9. So 9 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1, which means to say 9 minus 4, so this is 5. So everything else will be 5 except for the first ring. So to solve A, right, all I need to do is to add all of these things up together. All right, so I'll just add the ones that are greater, which is 6 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. This is 5, 10, 15 plus 6, 21. 21 plus the number of ones. How many ones do I have? I have 1 over here, 2 over here, 3 over here, 4 over here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm just going to add 21 plus 9 and I'll get to an answer of 30. So now let's take a look at B. Now for B, there are many methods, for you to use, but I felt that this would really help you. So what I'm going to do is this, okay? Whenever I do questions like this, I first ask myself, what is the same and what is not the same? Or I would say, what is the same and what is the odd one out? Okay, now, so we know that the distance from the top of the first ring, which is over here, all the way to the bottom, of course, we won't be able to draw it out. It's hard for us to draw it out as well, right? Because you're going to go on and on and on and on. So what are we going to do? We are going to skip all the way to the last ring, okay? So we are going to draw the last ring. Why is that so? Because the last ring is the one that is a little odd. Why is that so? Because for the last ring, right, it doesn't have anything hooked onto it. Okay, now so we have identified the odd one out. The odd one out is the last ring, not the whole ring, but not the whole last ring, but certain parts of the last ring. Okay, so what are we going to do? I'm going to find out. Okay, what is the same over here? So just now we know, right, that this is 1, this is 6, 1, 1, 5, 1, 1, 5, 1, 1, 5, so on and so forth. Right now, we can see that I can consider every ring to be 7 cm, 7 cm, 7 cm, 7 cm, even for the last ring, 7 cm. All right, but what is the odd one out over here? The odd one out over here is this part all the way down to this part. Okay, so if I have the last ring, I will just write 1, 1, and 5 over here as well. Right, but it is the odd one out over here. So this odd one out over here, which is the green color part, it is actually 2 cm. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to remove this first, and then since one ring is 7 cm, okay, so I might want to write this out first. We are going to simply do 198. We remove our odd, which is 196. So 196 is anything from here all the way down to this point, all right, which is 196. Agree? Now, so what I want to do is, since one ring is 7 cm, to find the number of rings, we will just simply have to do 196 divided by 7, and we will get to a beautiful answer of 28 rings. When I take a look at question number 16, right, it says that in figure 1, PQRS is a rectangular piece of paper. So we can see that this is the complete piece of paper. And what did they do? They cut out 6 identical triangles, which is amazing, right? Because we know that if they are identical, that means they are all the same, right? Now, and then they show you that the remaining paper is in figure number 2. The area of the remaining paper is 279, which is extremely important. So you might want to just note this down, this as 279. So to find out the area of each triangle, I will just have to find the area of figure 1, which is the whole paper, minus away the area of the remaining paper. That will give me the area of the 6 triangles. Okay, so I'm going to find first the area of the rectangular piece of paper, which is equals to 25 times 15. We'll get to an answer of 375 centimeters squared. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove away, all right, the area of the remaining paper, all right, because when I do that, I will find my 6 triangles. Okay, so for my 6 triangles will then be 375, which is the area of the whole paper, which is over here. I minus away this one. I minus away 279. Okay, I will get to an answer of 96. So 96 centimeters square is basically 6 triangles. So we want to find one triangle. So we just have to do 96 divided by 6. When I do that, I'll get to an answer of 16 cm squared. So this is actually for 8. So for part B, they say that the perimeter of figure number 2 is 54 cm longer than the perimeter of figure number 1. So we are not able to find out figure number 2 until we know figure number 1. So we are going to find out figure number 1 first. Okay, so we are going to say that the perimeter of figure 1 will then be 25 plus 15 plus 25 plus 15. Okay, so when we do that, we'll get to an answer of 80 cm. All right, now, so therefore, right, for figure number 2, right, it will then be 80 plus 54. When I do 80 plus 54, we get to 134 centimeters. So 134 centimeters is basically everything from P to Q and all of these triangles, R to S of this triangle. Okay, so all of the sides. Now, so when you see something like this, right, of course, you know, you want to remove away this 25 and you want to remove this 25, right? Because you realize that these lines from the triangle, I can actually find it, right? Because they are all the same. So we can simply just do 134 minus away 25 minus away 25. I will get to 84. What exactly is this 84? This 84 is basically the parts that I have highlighted in blue. So what we can do is we may not know it individually, but we can actually find them in sets, in groups. We are simply going to do 84 divided by 6. Okay, when I do 84 divided by 6, I get to 14. So what exactly is 14? If I may just draw it out for you, it's basically this and this. All right, so this plus this is 14. Now, but the question is not asking us for just these two. The question is asking us for the perimeter of each triangle, which means to say I need the base as well. All right, so the base over here, I know the whole thing, right? In figure number 1, it tells me that it's 15. Because they are all the same, so then each side will then be 5, 10, 15. All right, since I know that this and this is 14 and this is 5, isn't it true that the perimeter of each triangle will then be 14 plus 5? All right, and therefore my answer for this question has to be 19 cm.